And what we want to do now is continue to break down the Sean Combs trial. We had a partial verdict. We just don't know what the results are because the judge told the jurors to go back, deliberate. They says, you know what, we're going to go back, bring out another note and say, we're done for the day. So they are going to deliberate tomorrow. I want to bring in some of the coverage from Fox 5 New York. They are live right now doing team coverage. Let's listen in. And then on the back end, we will have our friend here of the program, Ben Taylor, legal analyst, to help break down what the big day was and what we can expect possibly for tomorrow. Let's go out right now. Fox 5 New York.
We have live team coverage for you. Good evening. I'm Natasha Verma. Steve is off tonight. That jury of 8 men and 4 women will resume deliberations in the morning after the judge ordered them to try and reach a decision on the final count. We've got Sharon Crowley with a look at what could be happening inside that deliberation room. But we begin tonight with Linda Schmidt, who's breaking down exactly what happened today. Hi, Linda.
Yeah, hi there, Natasha. Well, it was a bombshell development, too, when the jury sent a note today that it had reached a verdict on 4 of the 5 counts. Now, at that time, Sean Diddy Combs, hearing those words, he had his head down and his leg was shaking. The jury is still hung, however, on the top charge here, which is racketeering conspiracy. That is known as RICO. Now, this is the most challenging charge for the prosecution to prove. The jury sending a note saying that it was unable to reach a unanimous verdict on that charge because there are jurors on both sides with, quote, unpersuadable views. The judge, however, telling the jury to continue deliberating. Now, the judge, the prosecution, and Diddy's defense team all agreeing that it was too soon for the jury to give up on reaching a verdict on all the counts. So the jury will be back tomorrow morning to continue deliberating on the RICO charge. Now, today, the jury reached verdicts on 2 counts of sex trafficking and 2 counts of transportation for prostitution across state lines. We spoke with criminal defense attorney Arthur Idala, who says if Diddy has been found guilty on the 2 sex trafficking counts, he is looking at a long prison sentence.
What you should keep in mind is the counts that they have not reached a verdict on, there are mandatory minimums of 15 years.
Also today, a man who says that he and Sean Combs have been friends for 40 years while he spoke with reporters outside the court.
I'm very upset that my friend came here, right? And for me to be at this point right now.
And once again, the deliberations will continue tomorrow. Now, Sean Combs is 55 years old. If the jury has found him guilty of the sex trafficking charges, he would be at least 70 before he would be released from prison. Back over to you.
All right, Linda, thank you so much. So now the world waits to hear from the jury and what they're going to decide. A tense time for Diddy, his lawyers, and the prosecution. Fox 5's Sharon Crowley picks up that part of the story and joins us live from the newsroom. And Sharon, you just talked to a jury consultant.
I did just a short time ago, Natasha. One of the most famous men in the world has to wait to learn his fate. We know the jury decided on 4 of the 5 counts, but what remains a mystery tonight, why are they unable to reach a consensus on the RICO count? And will they be able to come up with an agreement when they resume deliberations tomorrow morning? While we don't know why the jury is stuck on the most serious of the charges, we do know the jury requested to review the testimony of star witness and Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. The jurors wanted to hear her account again of when she says Combs beat her at that L.A. hotel. Violence infamously captured now on videotape and played multiple times during the trial. The jury also asked about Cassie's testimony about a trip she took with him to the Cannes Film Festival. She testified that Combs at the time accused her of using drugs and threatened to release explicit videos of her having sex. The jury asked also, again, to look at the testimony of a male escort who testified he suspected Combs had been slapping Cassie around in a hotel room. I spoke with a jury consultant about what might be going on inside these deliberations.
It's always hard to figure it out from juror questions because it could be a single juror that is asking it, or it can be multiple jurors that are asking that. You know, if I'm to be looking at this, I'm going, okay, look, the individual counts are the easiest ones. The ones that are obviously struggling with is the racketeering charge. And that's where it has to be this enterprise. And that's a little counterintuitive for jurors because he's actually acting on his own. I think a lot of people think of an enterprise really as some criminal sort of mafiosa type of organization where there's a lot of people involved here.
And then, of course, jury consultant Richard Gabriel, an author, he was telling me that the bottom line in this case is that tomorrow the jury will need to figure out if they believe that Sean Diddy Combs was controlling all these people, dictating how they behave, or whether they freely chose to take part in everything that happened. We'll be following it for you, Natasha.
All right, sounds good. Sharon, thank you. Now let's get some legal perspective on what went down today inside the courtroom and what it could mean for the prosecution and the defense. Joining me now is criminal defense attorney James Kasouris. James, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
We don't know what the partial verdict is, but we do know that the jury is hung up on that count one, the RICO charge. What does that tell you?
Well, they're completely separate charges. And I have to say, we don't know what the verdicts are on the 4 counts. There could be 2 guilty, 2 not guilty. There was different evidence for the 2 sets of counts. What it means is that the jury may be having trouble deciding whether or not Mr. Combs was acting as an enterprise. You can find that somebody committed certain separate acts, but you still need to find A, that there was an enterprise, and that B, the acts were committed in furtherance of that enterprise. The enterprise is a very complicated charge, and there are far more requirements that need to be met aside from just the specific acts. As a matter of fact, if you were to find that there is no enterprise, then he's not guilty of that count, even if you find, as the jury may have found, that he committed the separate acts that are alleged to have been in furtherance of the enterprise.
As we heard some of our reporters say, the judge instructed the jury to keep deliberating. They're going to resume tomorrow morning. How fast do you think they could come back?
You know, you never know with a jury. I have to say this. The jury has not delivered their verdict in open court. They could go back tomorrow and 1, 2, 3 jurors could say, you know, I want to reconsider my vote on the 4 counts that we thought we reached a verdict on the night before. Depending on whether or not they make progress, depending on how the deliberations go, they could go for a very long time, or within 3 or 4 hours, you may get a note saying, look, we are hung on the enterprise.
Given what went down today, who should be feeling more optimistic tonight? Would you say the defense or the prosecution?
You know, reading the tea leaves as a criminal defense attorney for 38 years is really difficult. But I do have to say, just think about it. If they had acquitted on the 4 counts, then they would have acquitted on the enterprise. So I have to think that the defense is pretty nervous tonight.
All right. Interesting. James, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
And our coverage of the Diddy trial continues.
All right, that was Fox 5 New York breaking down their coverage, doing team coverage. Of course, a huge story out in New York, but really across the country as everybody is glued in right now. And I mean, could you imagine just how many people would be really glued in if this wasn't a federal case and there was cameras inside of this courtroom? I mean, the eyes would be definitely on this case full time. All right, we want to continue our coverage, though, on the Sean Combs trial. Partial verdict, and now Sean Combs in jail right now waiting, and we know he's not getting any sleep tonight. So we want to continue to talk about this a little bit more. Let's bring in our friend, Ben Taylor, legal analyst, criminal defense attorney. Great to have you back on. Thanks so much for joining us. And Ben, we've been together here now for the last 7 weeks here. I thought we were going to have the verdict in, and then it was just a little bit partial verdict, but we weren't able to bring it on all the way home. We'll see if that happens tomorrow. First off, Ben, what are your thoughts here on this partial verdict? Judge saying, we need you guys to go back and work on count 1 some more.
Yes, it's very interesting that, you know, the jury has come to a decision on the other counts, but there's still this 1 count hanging. So that tells you that maybe 1 or 2 jurors are back there, maybe still confused, maybe they're still debating. You know, one of the most significant charges is the count 1, the racketeering. So, I mean, that's the thing about jurors. It's really hard to read and decide, you know, what jurors are always thinking, because a lot of times they have a cold face and you can't read their minds. And we'll probably find out tomorrow. I'm thinking one thing is the 4th of July holiday is coming up. And these jurors have been here for several weeks, and they're ready to go home and make a decision either way. So I think tomorrow, I think the jurors are going to come back in the morning. They're going to deliberate. And I think either in the morning or early afternoon, we should have a verdict on probably all the counts by tomorrow.
Ben, one of my questions is why do you think the jury foreman even passed that note to saying, you know what, we have reached a verdict on 2, 3, 4, and 5. We can't come to a deal on 1 because, I mean, it was still early in deliberations. We're only talking Tuesday. Did they have enough? Do they think there's no way we could get a verdict on 1?
And that's the thing, Mike. I mean, they're behind closed doors, and it's only those 12 who are back there deliberating, and you have no idea what's going on. So yes, the foreman might have, talked to the other jurors, and maybe the jurors are like, heck no, I'm not convicting, or I'm not going to say, I'm going to say not guilty. I'm not moving my position no matter what. And it could be 1 or 2 or 3 people who are like, no matter what you tell me, I am keeping steady on my position. And that's what usually happens. And that's when the foreperson says, you know what, Judge, we've been back here talking for the last couple of days. We made a decision on the other counts, but this 1 count, the jurors are, deadlocked, and I don't see us moving the needle either way. So that's what usually happens when the foreperson talks to all the jurors, and the jurors are like, I'm stuck in my decision no matter what you tell me.
Now, why was the defense pressing for the judge to offer more deliberations for the jury? I mean, count 1 is the most serious, and if they don't have a say in that, I mean, wouldn't you say, okay, that's good, let's go, let's not have them deliberate anymore? Why do you think they want more deliberations?
It's very interesting, Mike, that they decided to say, hey, we want more deliberations. That tells you maybe the defense, I mean, they've been in there for several weeks, and maybe they feel like they're going to win this case. And maybe they feel like, let's keep deliberating because we feel that, this juries are going to, acquit him, meaning show not guilty on all the counts. Yeah, because that's a good point. If they felt that they were losing the case, they might say, Judge, call it a hung jury, meaning that they're hung on that count. But what's the thing? If it's hung, they would have to come back again if the prosecutor decides to just go on that 1 count and that 1 count only. And that's something the prosecutor can come on. If tomorrow there's still a hung jury, the state can say, and the defense can say, we want to go forward in the future on a separate trial on 1 count and 1 count only.
Okay, that is good intel here. And, I wonder, I mean, the note was so strong the way it was worded, what the jurors sent back to the judge saying that on count 1, there's multiple jurors that are unpersuadable. I mean, so what's going to happen from tonight to tomorrow to get them unpersuadable?
And that's the magic question, right? I mean, they're going to go home. I've seen this before. Jurors go home, they have a good night's sleep, they wake up in the morning and they come to the courthouse and their minds have changed. Maybe they have a better breakfast in the morning. Maybe they just thought about it. Maybe another juror in the juror room who is very forceful might convince the other jurors to go on their other side. So sides do switch. And like I said before, this 4th of July holiday is coming up. They've been in here for several weeks. They want to go home. So sometimes you have seen jurors are like, you know what? I'll just switch my vote to another vote because I want to go home. I don't want to be stuck here for another couple of days or even another week deciding this case.
Yeah, that's so true. And let's talk about Sean Combs right now as the defendant. I mean, he can't like the setup right now, knowing that they do have a verdict on 2, 3, 4, and 5. You don't know what that is. You have to try to get some type of sleep tonight. But I mean, he would have rathered not have any note passed today, right?
Yes, I mean, he is nervous, right? He is not getting any sleep tonight. He's probably up all night. I mean, just thinking about what's going to happen. Because if he's found guilty on these counts, he is spending the rest of his life behind bars in prison. And that's probably hard for a person who has lived a lavish lifestyle for many years and who has, is a rich person, right? So he is nervous. He knows his freedom is on the line here. And these 12 jurors hold his life in their hands. So they can come back tomorrow and say not guilty, and he walks out the courthouse a free man. I mean, if he's found not guilty, you probably see him back on the streets this week sometime. But if he is found guilty on some of the counts, he is going to be serving a lot of time, and he won't see the light of day maybe ever in his lifetime.
So, Ben, for these counts that they do have a verdict on, was this written down, or do they just have it right now as a mental note, or is there some types of forms that are sealed right now?
Yes, I mean, there are probably some forms that are sealed. So usually the jurors get a piece of paper, and they all write their decision down, either guilty or not guilty on a verdict. And they send it to the foreperson. The foreperson puts it in an envelope and seals it. So that means nobody knows right now. Not even the judge should know. Nope, the prosecution, the defense, only people that really know these verdicts, what might happen right now, are those 12 jurors who are in that room. But like I said, tomorrow, they could have, a change of heart. So we might see some jurors show up tomorrow and say, you know what? I thought he was guilty, or I thought he was not guilty, but I slept on it. I might want to change count 2 or count 3 and change my mind. And you may have longer deliberations. That's very rare that you see that because they've already made a decision on the rest of the counts. But tomorrow you'll probably see them deliberate on count 1, and either there'll be a hung jury saying that we can't come into the decision, judge, and we're going to just have a verdict on the rest of the counts, or you see them come and make a decision on the racketeering count 1 charge, and we'll have a verdict on all of the counts.
And I think we should also remind the viewers here that right before the jury got this case, remember the defense tried to get count 1 tossed by the judge. They were citing all these different court cases that happened in the past, and they said that the prosecution did not meet the burden of proof, and they wanted it tossed out immediately. And the judge didn't say no, but he put it under consideration. So could we possibly see something tomorrow where if it comes back either way, can the judge just overrule it?
Basically, once a jury comes back with a verdict, it's very, very rare for a judge to overturn a verdict. The judge does have the power to do that if the judge feels like the jury's, messed up or did something illegal or decided the case based upon erroneous facts. But it's very rare. If a jury comes back with a verdict, most likely the judge will uphold that verdict. But even afterwards, if there is a guilty verdict, you will see Sean Combs' defense team file a lot of motions for an appeal. An appeal is saying, okay, we didn't get a fair trial. Please overturn these convictions and let's have a new trial.
And do you think, Ben, that they have already had conversations with Sean Combs about, okay, if we do get guilty on some, we are going to immediately appeal, here's the process? Or do you just kind of not talk about that negativity with your client at that time?
No, I always talk and prepare my client because you want them mentally prepared either way. So Sean Combs' attorneys have prepared him for a guilty verdict and a not guilty verdict. If it's a not guilty verdict, he walks free. So he's free to do whatever he wants again. He's free to throw more parties if he wants, if he decides to, if he's found not guilty. But if he is found guilty, you always prepare your client to say, hey, I don't want you to scream. I don't want you to be messed up because this judge, the same judge that you might be mad at, is the one who will be sentencing you. So stay calm. And we also have an appeal. So I always prepare my clients, hey, get ready for the appeal if we're found guilty. And that's our second chance to fight this case.
And tomorrow, if we do get the verdict in for count 1, this could be a surreal moment if it is found not guilty on all, where we will see Sean Combs leave that courtroom and that courthouse. And what a scene that would be in New York City, seeing him in his gray hair and not looking like the music video Sean Combs that we have all seen in the past. This could be a really surreal day tomorrow.
So yes, if he's found not guilty and the judge allows him to be released at that moment and walk out the courtroom, I mean that's going to be one of the big historic trials we've ever seen in our country. But if he is found guilty, and his sentencing will be coming forward in probably about a month or two. That's going to be historic too. Seeing a person who has been in the music industry for many years, who people have grown up listening to his music, pretty much go from a rags to riches story that he's had, and now he might not be able to be any more a music star anymore in his whole life. So that's going to be sad too on his side and for his family if he is found guilty, even of 1 or 2 counts. He's looking at least 15 years, even if they found him guilty on one of the counts. So he's looking at a lot of time. So tomorrow is going to be a huge day for both the prosecution and the defense, and pretty much America, who everybody's eyes are glued on this verdict tomorrow.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I have to ask you here, because when we go back to when we're talking about huge trials, we go back to the big one, O.J. Simpson, back in the day, mid 90s. And I have to ask you, because there was rumors on the night before, if we all remember that one, the verdict came in, but they said we are going to announce it in the morning. And there was rumors that in jail, O.J. Simpson found out from security guards what the verdict was going to be. Is there any type of situation that Sean Combs could know maybe some of what is going to be dealt his way?
Combs knows that is definitely juror tampering, and that's very illegal. No juror should be leaking their decision or their verdict. However, it happens, right? And so you might have a juror who is talking to the media, talking to the press, or things happen. It's New York City, right? So who knows, right? People might be getting bribed. I hope not. We hope to have trust in our justice system, but anything can happen. And Sean Combs has been in there. He's watched these jurors. He's looked at these jurors. So he should have some sort of inclination on how these jurors are going to go tomorrow once the verdict comes back.
That's so true, and we'll all be watching and waiting to see when more notes are going to be passed, and we'll continue to update everybody on it. But Ben, always great to have you on breaking it down for us, and but it feels like we're on the eve of it, so we will see tomorrow if we get that note that says one way or the other. But Ben, thanks so much for joining us. Great to have you. We'll talk tomorrow.
All right, talk to you soon, Mike.
All right, take care.